All right, welcome everybody to today's live webinar on Juniper Replacement. So today's agenda, I'm going to spend a little bit of time giving some background and some potential impact of the Junos Pulse divestment. So one of the driving forces behind this series of webinars on Juniper Replacement, it was driven initially by Juniper's decision to divest its Junos Pulse business unit and some of the disruption and some of what happened surrounding that. And so I want to give a little bit of background on that, as well as some of the implications and how that plays into potential Juniper replacement. I see from some of the attendees that are on the webinar today that some people that I know are familiar with Array Networks, but also some people that may or may not be aware of Array Networks. Perhaps this is the first time that that you're hearing from us or that you're engaging with us. So I want to take a little bit of time and just give some background, build some awareness, and give some background around Array as a company, and then provide a quick overview of our product portfolio, but then also go into a little bit more detail around our AG series, which is our secure access gateway product, which is the product that we have historically competed against Juniper with. After that, rather than just simply having me talk, I also want to switch gears a little bit and give you a bit of a preview of the actual product itself, to give you a sense of just how powerful it is and how intuitive it is, and also some of the things that it can do. So I have on the call with me today Ed Kuiper, one of our good systems engineers, sales engineers, and I believe he's going to give a little bit of a preview both of the client experience and also a little bit of the admin experience as well. He'll correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's what we're going to be able to show you today. And then after that, there's a lot of different things that we do with or that we can do and that our customers do with the Secure Access Gateway. I'm going to touch on 3 of them that seem to be a little bit of bread and butter of what we do, the 3 use cases or solutions that we seem to be seeing a lot of lately, and that, we've helped most of our customers out with. So just kind of giving a little bit of an overview of some of the key Array SSL VPN solutions. And I believe in the invitation for this webinar, we had a pretty compelling offer for. So those of you that like what you hear, like what you see in the demo, maybe are considering at this point in time, assessing your options, doing your due diligence, and seeing if you need to refresh or move away from Juniper, what might be the best solution for you. If Array looks like it might be a good fit, we have a very compelling offer for that Juniper replacement program. So want to give the details around that, and then after that, make sure that we leave some time for those of you that have some questions, and whether that be business questions or technical questions, either myself or Ed can field those. Before we jump in, just a little bit of housekeeping here. I touched on some of this already. My name is Paul Anderson. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing here at Array Networks. Joining me today is Ed Kuiper, Senior Sales Engineer for Array Networks. And as I mentioned, so I'll be conducting the bulk of the webinar today and the presentation today. Ed will be doing the product demo and also being around for the Q&A as well. Regarding questions, if you have questions, as we go, jot those down. Jot them down in the either the chat window or the Q&A window, and just kind of send those as we go along. What we'll do at the end is we'll address those questions first, and while we're addressing those questions, that'll give whoever else, if there was a question that popped up at the end or you had but you hadn't entered, it'll give you time to enter those into the chat window. We'll make sure that generally we can get to all the questions we have. So with that, let's get started. So the background. Juniper Networks divested its Pulse business unit to Siris Capital Group at the end of 2014. So they sold that line of business to a private equity firm. And Siris launched Pulse Secure, a new standalone company, in 2015. And now here we are in 2016. And we've been doing this program probably for about a year. And the reason we do it is that, yes, there are some people that, initially when this happened, there was some disruption and people looking at their options. But what we found is that support contracts run out at different times. You know, the right time to make this evaluation, for some people that was right away. For other people it was 6 months later, and for some other people it might be even longer than that. So, you know, it's been about a year now since, you know, the driving force for this webinar, you know, occurred. But what we found is that it continued to make sense for us to make people aware of array networks and to keep this offer going, because people are going to be at the right place to be to take advantage of it at different times. One of the things that I did when this whole thing happened was I wanted to see what the you know, what was the feedback or the general sense out there amongst the Juniper customers, and what are some of the potential complications, rather than just, you know, making some assumptions. So, you know, I went on different news sites, read the comments, went on different bulletin boards, went on some of the Juniper boards, just to get a sense for what the customers were experiencing. And for example, on the Juniper blog here, and just reading through what some of the the feedback and some of the concerns were, and they generally kind of boiled down, and I lumped them and I boiled them down to these various categories, and this is what I was seeing out there. And generally, it came down to that measure of uncertainty or just some general dissatisfaction. You know, something like Juniper, you know, has a 20-year proven history. The new company, Pulse Secure, now it's just over a year old. You know, it doesn't have that big company behind it and that track record behind it. Support, you know, could be chaotic at first. The quality could wane over time, just depending on, you know, the staff that stay or the staff that get hired, or how that pans out. It could be good, it could be bad, they don't know. Again, staffing, did the key personnel transition? Are they at the new company? Will key personnel stay long-term? Partners, will your Juniper partner become a Pulse Secure partner? Some will, some won't. For some customers that'll work out, for other customers that won't. One of the main things that I saw was just communication, that a lot of people were, you know, it came out of left field. They didn't hear about it until they heard about it, and there was no real clear communication on what does this mean for them, who's going to support them, how the product's going to transition, you know, what's the future roadmap. That simply wasn't communicated well at the time. Granted that things get better over time, and some of those questions may have been answered by now, but these are some of the initial concerns that I saw out there. And focus. Does the Pulse Secure roadmap align with your business needs? For some, it might be yes. For some, it might be no. You know, I can see that they're heavily driving into NAC and internal access control. And maybe that's something that that focus aligns with you. But I haven't seen a lot of development on the SSL VPN side of the house, on the remote and secure mobile access side of the house. You know, if that's where your primary requirements are, I haven't seen as much emphasis on that as I have on some of the other features that they've been adding to their product. So it's not a knock. Sometimes the answers will be in the customer's favor. Sometimes it may not. And that's all we're trying to do is just, you know, it's a good time to, you know, kind of pump the brakes, hit the pause button, and take a look and see what other options are out there, and determine if, you know, Pulse or some other SSL VPN vendor is the right choice for you going forward. And with that, that's what we're telling people, is just make that informed decision. So the Pulse Secure may resolve some of these uncertainties with a positive outcome, or they may not, but now is the ideal time for some SSL VPN due diligence. Evaluate all of your options to ensure that you're getting the best deal on the best solution for you. And, you know, what are some of those key considerations? Well, does the vendor have a solid foundation, a consistent commitment to the SSL VPN market, and time-tested expertise? Has the vendor demonstrated the ability to support not just your current, but also your future SSL VPN requirements for an organization similar to yours? So, you know, if you're a small, medium enterprise, you're a large enterprise, does a potential replacement have experience and a history of experience in servicing those types of customers? Does the vendor meet or exceed the capabilities of the Juniper or the Pulse SSL VPN? Not really any point in considering an alternative if it can't do, at the minimum, what you're doing today, or it can't meet the capabilities of the product that you're replacing. Probably not going to make a lot of sense for you. is the SSL VPN vendor giving my business the best possible value? So, with Array Networks, not just with our SSL VPN product line, but also on our load balancing, our app delivery, and some of our other product lines, really, it's can we meet your technical requirements? Can we meet the requirements for your roadmap and where you're going? And if we've established that, can we do that for you and at the same time drive down complexity but also the cost of ownership? So is the SSL VPN vendor that you're considering as an alternative, are they not just capable of doing what you need them to do, but do they also give you the best value, the best bang for your buck? So that's a bit of the background, some of the drivers behind the Juniper Replacement Program. And with that, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the company and some of our products before I turn it over to Ed to kind of give you a taste for the product. So Array Networks, it's actually been around for over 15 years now. We were founded in 2000 and headquartered in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area here in California. Just over 250 employees. But it's actually it's a worldwide company, so we have significant presence in North America and Europe, obviously, but also have very strong presence in China, Japan, India, and some other emerging markets as well. So truly a global company, even though some of the customers you see down here are largely North American customers. The market that we serve, having been the pioneer in integrated traffic management, load balancing, and application delivery, the market that we're in is app delivery networking. That used to kind of just mean load balancing, but today you're seeing that market really consists of a lot of different layer 4 through 7 services, app delivery and security services, and so our product portfolio includes the application delivery controller, which we've been doing for 15 plus years, SSL VPN that we've been doing for 12 plus years, plus some newer products like the WAN optimization controller and the web app firewall that have been introduced within the last 5 years, as well as some very unique solutions such as our Array virtualized appliances. We won't be going into too much detail on that today, but a very unique solution to Array. Our segments, we have our traditional markets where we've been very strong, things like healthcare, financial services, education, state and local government. But one of the things that with the advent of the cloud, we've seen a larger and larger segment of our business coming from the cloud segment. Segments such as infrastructure as a service, such as SoftLayer, all the load balancing services that they offer are based off of Array products. Software as a service, people that need to scale their applications, serve hundreds of thousands or millions of users. So in addition to the traditional markets, we're also seeing a lot of pickup in servicing the needs of cloud service providers. Very strong technology portfolio. We don't rely on a lot of open source solutions. We purpose-built, whether it comes to our hardware or our software, purpose-built for performance and also for security, and a strong enterprise customer base worldwide. And just a little bit about our AG series, our SSL VPN, and focusing on a few things here. I got 5 kind of data points here. And what are the 5 things that generally we distinguish ourselves on or sets us apart from the competition? Scalable and flexible platform options, so it doesn't matter whether you want to go physical for performance reasons, scalability reasons, or you want to go with virtual appliances for a greater degree of agility or that it's more aligned with your architecture going forward. We support both. On the physical appliances, it really doesn't matter how big your user base is. We can scale from 25 all the way up to 128,000 concurrent connections, which is insane. Probably we don't have anybody that has that many on a single box. We have plenty of examples of people that have 12,000, 15,000 on a box. But we can do up to 128, but with plenty of throughput for over 10,000 users easily. So regardless of the size of your organization, we have scalable and flexible platform options. Remote and mobile access, so the traditional remote access, absolutely, but of course mobility, cloud mobility is what's driving so many changes these days. When it comes to mobile access, so PCs, tablets, smartphones, Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, other platforms, so a range of client endpoints that we can support. Flexible access methods, so layer 3 network access, of course. but also more and more what we're seeing is people wanting to minimize the use of layer 3 because they want fewer direct connections to their network. They want to either proxy or provide a thin client so that the data actually stays in the data center and never goes out to the client. So we have very robust layer 7 and layer 4 capabilities that allow you to make applications and make, resources available without exposing the corporate network, and perhaps, keeping the layer 3 access only where it's needed for particular uses, particular people, and then, of course, you would layer on a lot of the endpoint security to clean that up and lock that down. But the flexible access methods is a key differentiator for us. End-to-end security, so the client security, strong AAA integrated web firewall, and I mentioned earlier about really investing in our own technology portfolio. And we don't use OpenSSL. We use a proprietary SSL stack that we built. We built it for its better performance than the competition, but at the same time, we really buttoned it down, locked it down, and it's not open source. It's not exposed. Things like Heartbleed, Shellshock, Bash, Ghost, Brown, other vulnerabilities that have been reported for OpenSSL. We weren't affected by any of those. No customers had to do any patching, remediation, or anything of that nature. Nothing's ever 100% secure or bulletproof, but history has shown so far that our implementation and our approach to our products have been more secure than other options. And then the custom virtual portals. So each platform can do up to 256 virtual SSL VPN portals. These are fully partitioned SSL VPNs on each platform. So if you've got customers, contractors, different business units, guests, partners, each one needing to see and utilize certain resources and have it be fully partitioned and segmented from the others, you can do that on the box. Each one can have a completely different look and feel, can have completely different delegated management roles and responsibilities, everything like this, so you get tremendous flexibility. I mean, it's truly an enterprise-class SSL VPN that can meet or exceed what the Juniper product was able to give you. And right here just kind of sums that up. So if you're looking side by side, the ability to support, a user base of any size, check. With respect to AAA authentications, thousands versus hundreds. We've got the endpoint, we've got the AAA, the multiple access methods, client security, multiple platform support, the fully partitioned virtual portals, which is much more secure and much more partitioned than the realms you'll find on the Juniper, and then the value and the price performance is significantly better as well. So with that, I am going to switch gears here, and I'm going to hand it over to Ed, and he should be able to give you a quick demo and walkthrough of the product.
Good morning, or good afternoon.
Let's see here. This should work, hopefully. All right, you are now the presenter. All right, Ed, take it away.
All right. All right, good afternoon, everybody. What I'm going to do here is I just brought up the web interface to our access gateway. I'm going to give you the end user experience, and then I'll go in and show you the configuration. Some of the things I like to talk about initially from the end user experience and also from the customer's perspective is that we do provide our own two-factor authentication that's included with our product. We do support RSA, we support Duo, and all the other major two-factor solutions, but if you're a customer that does not have a solution, is looking for one, you can also use our built-in two-factor. It's called Motion Pro OTP. It's an app that you can download for your Android or iOS device. It generates a 6-digit dynamic code. And after you type in your username and password, you'll type in that code that changes every 30 seconds, and that'll authenticate you through. Some other things I'll be showing you is that the web interface is completely customizable, so you can brand it to your company. It does not have to look like a race product. A lot of our customers, when they're done implementing our product, you would not even be able to tell it's our access gateway. One of the other things I'll show you shortly is our standalone client. So if you have end users that do not want to use a web browser, we do have what's called Motion Pro. It's our standalone client. that is also platform agnostic, so it does run on Microsoft Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and Linux. So I'm going to log in to our Access Gateway using my Active Directory credentials, and you'll see here I'm presented with a number of resources. I'm going to go through each one individually. I'm actually going to make sure I'm disconnected off of my VPN first. So now that I'm in here, you'll see that I have web links. Web links are proxied web applications. And when we talk about proxy, what we're talking about is the outside user or the client making a connection and authenticating to our Access Gateway on the outside interface. We then close that connection, and then we make an internal connection to the web application or maybe to the remote desktop or even the VPN. So you'll see here for OWA, the web link here, I'm going to click on that, and it's going to make a proxy connection over through to Outlook Web Access. So essentially we can close down the open ports on the firewall to our Exchange servers and allow the proxy connection and authentication to come through the Access Gateway. So you can also combine that with two-factor and really move all your two-factor to our Access Gateway, and you don't have to manage that in multiple locations. The other thing you can see is that we enable single sign-on, so the user doesn't have to log on twice. So for proxied web links or web applications, we can support things like OWA, SharePoint, XenApp, Horizon View. So there's many applications that we can support, and I would like to say virtually any application we can support through our web link technology. The next thing I'm going to show is Desktop Direct. That's for proxied RDP connections. Those RDP connections can be a physical or virtual desktop back at the office. It could be a terminal server desktop. It can even be a terminal server remote app. And you'll see as this loads in, I have a number of desktops presented, most of which are desktops back at our office. But you also see I have PuTTY here. That's going to be a remote application. We can also have the ability to put them in different folders. So I'm going to make a selection to this Windows box. This is back at my office, and it's going to make a proxied connection. You'll see it's 127.0.0.1. That's that loopback address. So it is a true proxy. The end user never makes a network connection. We actually proxy that connection back to that internal resource. And by doing that, we can do things like prevent copy and paste from the remote desktop back to the local computer. We can prevent print redirection and drive mapping. And that's all policy-based, so you can decide to enable or disable those features for a specific user or group of users. The last thing that I want to show you as far as functionality is our VPN. You'll see right here we have a Layer 3 web VPN, okay? But I'm also going to show you that we have our standalone client, and I'm going to bring that up here. Now, our standalone client is a unified client. It's called Motion Pro. It can be used for a Layer 3 access or for the Desktop Direct functionality. So you'll see if I simply click on the demo site here and I log in, it's going to authenticate me, and it's going to show you the same desktops that you saw through the web browser. And again, this Motion Pro is good for Windows, for Mac, for iOS, Android, and Linux. And with that same client, I can also disconnect and I connect back to my Layer 3 VPN to the office. And I'll show you more about the configuration on Layer 3 and some of the differences and features and functions that we have with that as well. Now, we do give clients the ability to download the standalone clients right from our web interface. You'll see the Motion Pro downloads. So you can upload your PC version, your Mac version. You could even upload the Linux version in here. The Android and iOS versions would be available from the app stores. But you can also use this section if you wanted to upload other resources as well. So if there's another client that you need to upload, or maybe instructions on how to configure the client, you could upload that here as well. Some other features of the web interface and also with the Motion Pro standalone client is that we give you the ability to change your password, okay? So that might be your Active Directory password if you're using Active Directory to authenticate, or it could be your local password if you don't have Active Directory in your environment. We can also support password change notifications, so we will query Active Directory and take a look at the policy for your password requirements, and we can provide a notification to the user to change their password. So at this point, I'm going to take you into the web UI. The web UI is for configuring the appliance. So I'm going to log in here. So what I'm going to show you is a number of key features on our appliance for configuration, some things that may set us apart from our competition. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is ease of configuration, so hopefully that will come across during this demo. So you'll see here, this is the landing page. It gives you a little bit of detailed information on the system information, but just a few quick networking things. Basic networking, we give you 4 ports to work with. We do support link aggregation or bonding. So most customers, they're putting 1 or 2 ports out on the outside interface and 1 or 2 ports on the inside interface, 2-arm configuration. We do support high availability. High availability can support up to 32 units. We do support session state failover, so that way if a unit goes down, all the connections are maintained because the session state is copied or mirrored across all the other units. And then we also have a runtime configuration sync, which allows changes to be replicated across all the units when changes are made. So you'll see at the top left, I'm choosing the drop-down here, and you can see I have a number of portals. And Paul had mentioned up to 254 portals being able to be added, based off of different models that we have. But you'll see in my instance, I have different portals based off of what I'm actually going to do with the portal. But you could also say that if you're a multi-tenant, you could say that each portal is for a different customer. So there's many different uses for these portals. You might say that I have a portal for my layer 3 connections because I want to do a host integrity check. I want to check against antivirus and spyware and definitions. But on my proxy services like web application and desktop direct, there's no need. So you may separate those 2 functions into different portals. I'm going to drop down into our desktop direct portal. That's the portal that we were demoing. That's going to load in, and I'm going to show you a few things regarding security, authentication methods, and also some VPN functions. So if I click on SSL, you'll notice that we have the ability, or provide you the ability, to disable older protocol support. So you'll see here we have 1.2 enabled and everything else disabled. In addition, you can come over to Cipher Suites, and we give the ability to disable older Cipher Suites. So with that, you can eliminate older web browsers and really limit the end users to newer web browsers that are going to be more secure for your environment or for connecting back into your office. You'll see here we have enforced minimum cipher strength, so that if you do disable some older Cipher Suites, rather than the user getting a page cannot be displayed, you can actually send them to a custom URL that may tell them why they failed and maybe provide them a link to download a newer browser. So it's a really nice feature to provide end users with some instruction if they do fail to get in because they don't meet the requirements. Under security settings, we give you the ability to have your session limit per user, or maybe your idle session timeout. Now, this is a global setting, but we can also allow you to do that per user, per group of users. So you may have certain groups of users that may not want to time out for 6 or 7 hours if they're idle, or maybe you have another group of users that you want them after 30 minutes of inactivity to be able to time out. You can set these policies based off of the specific group or user. For authentication, we're going to support LDAP, which is generally for Active Directory. We'll do Radius. Radius is generally used for a 2-factor solution, so maybe something like Duo or RSA. And then we also have client certificates. Client certificates is nice because you could check or have the Access Gateway check for a specific certificate on the remote system that may be a managed asset before presenting them with a log-on screen. And then we can also support multiple methods. So you may have a method for your employees to log in, and then you may have a separate method for maybe your IT staff to log in or outside vendors. Okay. You may also say that we require 2-factor for external users, but not for internal users. So it can be based off proximity as well. We're going to drop down to Portal. Portal is the look and feel. Things like enabling password changes or maybe importing your logo can be set from here. Even more advanced, you could come into Themes, and you may want to change the look and feel, maybe change the colors, fonts, or text. You might want to add a disclaimer. So you could come into the actual portal here and go into the HTML and edit that directly from the device. You may want to export the whole theme, give it to a web developer. They're going to change the look and feel completely, brand it to your business, and then you'll import it in. We even give you the ability to manage or host the portal on an external web server. A lot of enterprise customers will do this if they have a web development team that manages the look and feel, but the security team doesn't want to provide access into the access gateway to that web development team. They may host that externally. We're going to drop down now to VPN. We talked about the proxying of the web applications and proxying of your RDP or remote desktop connections, but you may need to provide that layer 3 connectivity. Sometimes there's no way around that. So how do we protect your business from these layer 3? Well, hopefully they're coming in through a managed asset, so you can do that host check and make sure they have the right antivirus and the definitions are up to date. But now they're going to make that network connection. So we want to make sure that we're only providing access to the internal resources that they should be getting into. So we have the ability to configure multiple resource groups. Okay, and in my example here, I only have one, but you could have many resource groups listed here, and then based off of the user's group permissions, Active Directory permissions, they'll be assigned the correct resource. What a resource allows you to do is configure full tunnel or split tunnel. It can give you the ability to add which IP address or subnet are going to route through the VPN. We can even limit it by port number. You could also say that I only want to allow Outlook access through this tunnel when it's connected, and you could specify it by application. And we also give you the ability to exclude items as well. But let's say, for example, you give a user access to the 10.1.6.0 subnet, but you want to further define that rather than creating multiple entries here. Or if you're doing full tunnel and you say I want to allow everything must go through the tunnel once they connect, but I want to further define what they have access to, you can manage that through our ACL, which is really our access control list that can be granted to specific users and groups, and it's permit or deny, and you can simply specify the protocol, the IP address, or even port numbers in this ACL list. So you can really define and limit what external users have access to once they connect to that layer 3. Everything that we're doing in here is based off of our roles, and most of our customers utilize Active Directory. Okay, so just to explain roles, what we do is create a role. A role is really a group name, is how I like to define it. So, for example, this Outlook Web Access 2013 role name. Well, now what I do is I match a qualification up to it, or I say who qualifies to match up to this role name. So what I can say is that the user must be in these two groups, OWA 2013 and desktop direct _ role. So they're conditions, and the conditions are easily added by just dropping down. You can choose group name. You can select add from LDAP, and then you can search your LDAP and add those groups in. So you can have multiple criteria. So once I have a role name and then state what qualifies a user to be in that role, then I can say, okay, what resource is tied to that. So if you'll see here, I have my OWA 2013 role name that says, if you qualify, you get access to this link. And you can have multiple URLs or resources tied to a specific role. This is just one example. So you'll see here I have multiple resources. The Web UI role has 4 different WRM resources, where some of the others may only have 1 assigned. And then I can also do the same for VPN, where I can specify which role has access to which resource groups and which net pools. And I'm just going to talk about net pools for a moment, going back to VPN. So net pools are going to define the IP address that the remote client is assigned when they connect in. We do give you the ability to specify a dynamic IP range. That can be a non-routable subnet. with that non-routable subnet, the end user never gets a real IP address on your network, and then using our NAT functionality, we can NAT through only to the resources that a user is allowed to access. We also have this stay connected function. Stay connection is going to allow a user to maybe switch from one internet provider to another or close their laptop and reopen it and then reconnect without having to re-authenticate. That's really nice for that mobile workforce. But again, this is all tied back to, under security settings, the session lifetime policies. So you'll never keep yourself vulnerable just to allowing sessions open. You can actually define what the idle timeout would be for that stay connected. Last thing I'm going to show you quickly is our logging. So you'll see under monitoring, we do log everything that goes in and out of our device. So we have very good logging capabilities. We also provide you the access to export that or dump that to a syslog server for your historical information. And we also do provide email notification. We have SNMP and SNMP v3. So you can get a really good look at what's going on in the box, and not only just from monitoring it from a security perspective, but also from troubleshooting as well. So at this point, I'm going to end this demo. I'm going to hand this back over to Paul.
All right. Awesome, Ed. Thank you. Let me take control here and take a look at some key solutions for array networks and our SSL VPN. One moment. All right, so what I'm going to share with you now is three key solutions for arrays, AG series, SSL VPN. And the first one really is enterprise-wide remote and mobile access. So with a solution that's as robust and as scalable as the array solution, being able to support tens of thousands of users, being able to support multiple virtual portals that can support different lines of business, partners, contractors, guests, and you name it. One of the things that many of our enterprise customers do is move from a fragmented secure and remote access architecture to one that's unified on 2 to 3 appliances that can from one solution really manage and provide all the different remote and mobile access services that are required for that organization. And whether that be layer 3, RDP, or web access, you can figure out which groups are best served by which access methods. Doesn't matter whether they're on, smartphones, tablets, laptops, workstations, doesn't matter. We can support the gamut of those client endpoints. And it doesn't matter on the back end whether they need access to web apps, client server applications, or native mobile applications, file shares, physical or virtual desktops over RDP, that's layer 4 connectivity that Ed was talking about. So it really is a very robust solution to provide enterprise-wide remote and mobile access. And a great example of that is Humana. Humana is one of the very first customers that really helped us kind of develop this this model or this solution or this approach. And working with the CSO over there, really the driving force behind why he chose Array was really he saw that vision of reducing the number of attack vectors and driving greater consistency in policies by consolidating secure remote mobile access onto a single SSL VPN appliance. So this is the case of a very large enterprise customer. Why the need for a scalable SSL VPN? Their stovepipe secure access for various use cases was costly to manage, but also too prone to inconsistencies and also data leakage due to those the multiple attack vectors that it created. So in deploying our AG series, consolidated secure access for local and remote employees, partners, and guests on a unified platform, and then was able to use a lot of the features and the reporting and the capabilities that Ed showed to provide demonstrable accountability for HIPAA compliance, but at the same time increasing productivity for their various users. The second one that I see more and more for a lot of our customers is what we're calling the one user experience to rule them all. And as we talked to different customers, we were finding that they were using different access gateways to access different resources. So, maybe Citrix solutions had a certain gateway and a process and a user interface to access those apps, and then there was some VMware, the Horizon View, and there was an access gateway for that, and that had a particular process, particular URL, particular password to get into that, and on and on. Windows applications, physical desktop applications, traditional VPN, all of them had their own portal page or their own login process, their own credentials, and in an enterprise environment, this kind of gets in the way of that seamless user experience that promotes productivity. So this really ties back into what Ed demonstrated there with the web links and with having that single sign-on capability, everything very seamless. It doesn't matter. The user logs in to one place, one set of credentials, one process, and in that they have everything that they need, whether that be access to some physical desktops, virtual applications, web apps, files, or even if they need to launch the Layer 3 VPN, that can all be done from one place. So it greatly simplifies things. And Array is kind of agnostic in that way. We don't have skin in the game behind any one particular back-end resource. So that, settling on Array, you can get that one user experience to rule them all. An example of that is Buckingham Research, in this case a financial services firm, research and brokerage firm, and why the need for that unified access. The Citrix Access Gateway was becoming too expensive and complex for providing mobile access to a mix of both virtual and physical desktops. Citrix was in there trying to do a lot or replicate a lot of what we can do with our very unique desktop direct solution, and their approach was quoted at about $300,000 as opposed to what we could do the same thing with a $30,000 appliance, and we could get them up and running and give them what they needed in 3 weeks as opposed to what was estimated as an 8-month project going that route with Citrix. So one HA pair and one DR unit, that was it, and we were able to give these guys that very seamless single user experience, and they could access both physical and virtual desktops and applications on the back end. And lastly, I talked a little bit earlier in the presentation about how we're seeing a lot of pickup from cloud providers in terms of being a new and growing segment of our business. And one of the things that's common to a lot of these providers is that they have presences at a lot of different remote data centers and remote points of delivery around the world. And they also enable services from those various data centers located around the world as well. And so it's not just that the admins for the service providers need access to these remote data centers in order to manage the underlying infrastructure that's powering their services, but in many instances, if you're an infrastructure as a service provider, the customers that you service, they also need remote mobile access methods in order to be able to access those data centers and manage and configure, update, and maintain the infrastructure services that they've purchased. So we're seeing a lot more demand for this to have an SSL VPN be resident in a pod or in a remote data center to service the access requirements of both provider and customer admins. So in this case, I'm kind of articulating the SoftLayer example and what we were able to do for them. Obviously, we use our load balancers to power their cloud load balancing as a service offering. But also, we provide secure remote access to infrastructure and services. So with our AG series SSL VPN located in every data center and every pod they've stood up, we've allowed the cloud provider administrators to manage internal networks and infrastructure, and also we're able to give customers the ability to manage their purchase services. And here I'm just kind of reinforcing that point there. SoftLayer IBM, very large infrastructure as a service provider, customer, 23 data centers, more than that now actually, 11 countries. Why the need for secure cloud access? Give cloud provider and customer admins ability to manage infrastructure and services at data centers around the world, and the AG appliances at every point of delivery, full separation between provider and customer access portals and networks, and that goes back to the virtualization capability that we talked about on the platform. So with that said, I want to wrap up here by talking a little bit about the offer and then also moving into the QA and some of the questions that we've received here along the way. So from now until October 31st the program is running. And essentially what we're doing is we're making the hardware available for free. So 2 free physical, or in the case of those that are looking at virtual appliances, that are capable of replacing any size Juniper SSL VPN. So depending on which appliances you own, it's going to dictate the corresponding array appliances that we're able to make available to you for free, plus or minus a little bit. If we want to move up just a little bit to accommodate the fact that you're maybe having some future growth, we can accommodate that as well. So we're providing 2 free physical or virtual appliances, so the hardware is free. Also free on each of those 2 appliances is 100 concurrent user licenses included with each physical or virtual appliance. All the SSL VPN software, the features that you saw described by Ed on the demo, that's all included free of charge as well. And what's required is that you purchase 3 years of gold support, but at a discounted rate. So you get everything I described. All that is required is that you purchase a 3-year Array Gold support contract at a 30% discount. And here are some of the particulars. It applies to any size and type of Junos Pulse solution, whether that be an older SA or a newer MAG solution. The 3-year Gold support contract is purchased up front at that 30% discount. Additional user licenses, so above that 100 concurrent, those licenses are available and they're discounted at 30%. And we try to make it easy. We don't require any kind of boxing and shipping of any hardware or anything like that, just a very simple decommissioning statement with a serial number and some specifics on the Juniper product that we're replacing. So try to make it very seamless. And, that kind of brings us to a close here. Just, want to touch base on a few points that map back to some of those things that I said, hey, you may want to look at these particular areas if you evaluate potential alternative to Juniper. Track record, we've been supporting SSL VPN, large enterprises as well as small and medium enterprises for over 13 years. Our support team averages over 7 years at Array Networks with a sterling reputation for service. Staffing, profitable company with marquee customers. Array and its employees have been here for quite a while and are here to stay. Partners, very well-trained partner network, average of 5+ years deploying and supporting Array. Communication, so a strong commitment to communication and to customer engagement through not just our customer advisory program where we bring in customers, but also through our quarterly newsletters, through our newsletters that go out every 3 to 4, our updates that go out every 3 to 4 weeks that talks about new capabilities, new programs, new updates, new software releases, you name it. A very strong commitment to communication, and then a focus, based in unmatched responsiveness to unique enterprise requirements and evolving secure access needs. So commitment to this market, but also you're not going to find a vendor that's going to be more responsive in working with you to make sure that the solution meets your requirements. And so with that, let me hop out of here. And actually, I don't need to hop out of here. I can bring up the chat window and the QA window and take a look. See what we got here. Ed, you can hear me okay?
Yes. Yep, you're great.
All right, let's get going here. So first one, do you sell direct or do we have to go through a partner? We do it either way based on the preference of the customer. We have a very strong national network. We have distribution. We have a very strong national network of partners, and we also are more than willing to work with a preferred partner of a particular customer. So if you've got a very strong relationship with a partner, you want to use them, absolutely, we can work with them even if they're not part of our existing partner network. If you're, hey, I want to go direct, I want to deal with you guys, we're more than willing to do that as well, either way. Okay, so we have some interest here on exactly what would the price be for a certain amount of boxes, and what would that equate to in terms of the 3-year support and some particulars of that nature. So I won't try to cover that right now on the phone. Of course, some of those quotes and some of those price ranges will be different just depending on how many boxes and stuff. So for those of you asking that, I will we'll follow up individually and provide you with that information. And let me keep looking here. Regarding the virtual portals, do they allow you to have different networking configuration, including different DNS configurations, Ed?
Yeah, so each portal can be completely customized. So for each portal, you can actually have a specific IP address. You can have it authenticate differently to different Active Directory controllers, different radius. So the perfect example is if you're multi-tenant and you're providing a support for multi-tenant, and each one has their different domain controllers, different IPs, you can do that. So we do support VLAN and also MNet. So the only requirement is that there's an interface assigned to the IP address that you're going to have the portal on, and that's where VLAN and MNet can come into play. So just think of each portal being a separate instance or a separate configuration that can be completely independent of every other portal there. So the answer is yes.
How does your two-factor or dual authentication, which I gather is included, differ from Duo, other than you have to pay for Duo?
So the main difference there is with Duo, we'll send a push to your phone. Duo also has some other things where it'll send an SMS to your phone, or it can also call you. For our two-factor, it's really just a push to your phone. So, Duo is a commercial product. It's going to have a lot, it's a cloud-based product. They actually will track your location. It can do a lot more than our Motion Pro one-time password. Our Motion Pro one-time password just really fits that niche where you might be a customer that doesn't have two-factor, but you want it, but you don't want to go out and buy your own solution. So it's not going to be the end-all enterprise RSA Duo solution, but it is going to fit the needs to maybe a smaller company that doesn't want to have to purchase another solution, and they're okay with just having that push measure or push application to their phone.
All right. I'm going to try to answer these kind of all at once in a batch here, because we've had a number of questions around the presentation from today, the presentation itself, as well as the recording. Some people saying I want to be able to prep other people in my group or senior management on this. So the presentation that you're seeing here today is going to be, a PDF version is going to be sent to everybody directly after the call. Generally, the recording takes just a little while to edit it, but that goes to our Array TV YouTube page within 2 to 3 days, and I kind of send out a little bit alert when that's available. So what's shown here today is absolutely going to be made available to everybody. Is there an option to evaluate? Yes. If you go to our website, you'll see Try It Now. There's a couple different buttons on the home page that are marked Try It Now. That goes to our download center. In the download center, you can clearly see it just requires like a name and an email, a couple pieces of information, and you can get the software and you can begin to kind of get your feet wet looking at and playing with what Ed showed today. So for those that want to start kind of test driving it, go to our website. It should be very clear how to get your hands on that virtual edition of the product. We touched a little bit on this, whether it's direct or through a VAR, either or. Are there partners in UK? Yes, we have very strong distribution and partners in the UK. I'm not going to mention the names right now, but I'll circle back, and we're absolutely represented there. And then some additional questions about how much for how much. We'll answer that separately. What clients are currently supported, like Windows 7 through 10, Mac, Linux, et cetera? Can you repeat or go over some of those various clients that we're able to support?
Yeah, so we're platform agnostic. So our Motion Pro standalone client, again, it's Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, Linux. Our web browser, same thing. So we can support all browsers. We do support all operating systems and just various functions and features for each. But in summary, we can support all the different platforms.
Let's see here. Can the cluster span physical networks? I have one unit in one location and a second in a DR location. Can they sync their configs?
Absolutely. So we do support Layer 2 and Layer 3 HA. So the units do not have to be on the same subnet. They can be on separate subnets, and we can still synchronize that through. What we do is we blacklist the IP addresses from syncing, so that way we don't overwrite that configuration. But your web mapping resources will replicate. Everything in the portal will replicate. Your users will replicate for desktop direct, the desktop. So absolutely, we can support that.
Question here, how does your solution compare to VPN from Palo Alto? What do you do better? I'll touch on that real quick, and then Ed can build on it from there. With the Palo Alto, obviously they're doing a lot of stuff beyond, next-gen firewall, other stuff other than the SSL VPN. So it's a smaller component of their overall solution, so it's not going to be as robust as a product like from Array Networks, where the SSL VPN is the full focus of the product. Ed, anything you want to kind of add to that?
Yeah, I would say that we are a proxy, so we're actually proxying the connections through. The other thing is, with that two-factor authentication and things like being able to proxy active sync traffic. We are purpose-built for SSL VPN, so we're not just doing Layer 3. We're proxying RDP, proxying web applications. So again, purpose-built. That's our focus. We're not worrying about the firewall segment of it. We're just worrying about securing the end user and providing a secure remote network access to the internal devices.
Okay. Will Array help with the configuration port from Juniper to the AG? I'll take this one. The answer is yes. And as I mentioned earlier, we've been at the Juniper Replacement Program now for about a year, and what that's given us is experience now in working with the customers that have come before. And so with each migration, we get better and we gain more experience in doing the migration and doing the conversion of the porting of the configuration from the Juniper to Array. So yes, we have been providing assistance with that, and yes, we're getting better. Ed, anything to add to that?
No, I think you hit it. I mean, we've done a number of these, and we will definitely assist. But you hit all the major points there.
Does your solution support reverse proxy connections such as active sync?
Yes, that's one thing I did not mention, but we can be a full proxy for active sync. So generally, we put that in its own portal, and then we can proxy that active sync traffic through our access gateway. We've done that in a number of live environments in production.
Are the user licenses concurrent or named users? They're concurrent user licenses, so you do have that ability to do some oversubscription. So for instance, that 100 concurrent users that are included free on each platform, obviously those are going to be able to support a community that's larger than 100 users.
One thing to add on that with concurrent users, the way we treat users in HA, so if you have 100 total concurrent users, you can license each box for 50, and then we pull them together. So it's another way of us being a little bit more cost-effective than some of the other solutions out there.
Question here, do you have a list of some of the multi-factor authentication systems that Array supports? Yeah, absolutely we do. I'll actually include that link in my follow-up email, but we have a page on our website dedicated to multi-factor and dual-factor authentication. Ed, maybe you could rattle off kind of some of the, 3, 4, 5 of some of the ones we support, but we have a lot of partnerships in that area.
Yeah, I mean, Duo, RSA, Symantec, VIP, I have not come across one that we haven't been able to support. I think Okta is another one. So, generally, if they're Radius, we're going to support it. Phone Factor is another one that I just configured. So the list will go on and on, but yeah, we don't have any issue.
And it looks like I'm getting down to the last one here, so just about to wrap it up. Do you have a comparison with Citrix and F5 as well, and would the offer be good against somebody other than Juniper? I've had this request in the past and have checked with my VP of sales, and we would actually consider that as well. So, if you are running something like a FirePass or access gateway or something of that nature, we are open to having that conversation. And let me do a final check, and then I'll thank everybody for joining us today. I think it's been a fantastic webinar. All right, I think we've answered everything. So, Ed, thank you for taking time to walk us through the AG, and also thank you to everybody who joined us here today. I think it was a great webinar, and thank you for joining us. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.